There are three certain things in life. One of them is that you can expect mind-blowing statements about guns from people that should know better. I mean, they were elected to office somehow. So today, I am ranking the most fantastic, logic and physics-defying gun statements out there and putting them to the test so you will not be fooled. As a platoon leader and a competitive shooter for decades, I have seen and heard some crazy stuff, but the stuff below takes the cake.
Is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
To be honest, though, I'm not even sure how to rank this first one. Number 16. What?
The 5-shot rifle, that's a standard military rifle. The problem is if you attach a clip to it so it can fire more shells, and if you remove the pin so that it becomes an automatic weapon, that's when they become essentially a weapon of mass destruction.
What?
Let me try translating. Karaban Yahogsen ha how. I think what he's trying to say here is that he doesn't like the so-called high-capacity magazines, but this stuff with the pins, it is utter nonsense. There is no autosear in civilian AR-15s. The autosear, by the way, is a small metal component in military M16 type rifles, allowing for fully automatic fire. An autosear is classified as a machine gun, and it is a felony to have an unregistered one. So removing the pin at best will do nothing, and at worst might break the firearm.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
And now, going all the way to the Supreme Court with Ketanji Jackson. Number 15, Supreme Wrong Math.
800 rounds a second or whatever.
How true is this? Let's do a bit of math and think of a cool movie. 800 rounds per second, that is 48,000 rounds per minute, far beyond even the chain guns of the military, which top at around 6,000 rounds per minute. With a perfect trigger finger, think somebody like John Wick. You could probably get off about 60 rounds per minute, but realistically, you cannot shoot that fast because it's not that easy to pull the trigger back to back to back many times in 1 second implements, especially as you have to deal with recoil. That's why in reality, a well-trained shooter could probably get off about 30 rounds or 40 rounds in a minute, at most. So she was only off by 1,000 times. You would hope a Supreme Court justice would know better. So either she does not, or she does not care because she has her own agenda that she is pushing. I am not sure which one is worse. Please subscribe and let me know in comments what you think. Unfortunately, she's not the only high-level official in this video. But first things first. Number 14, Mike Bloomberg goes blaa. I suppose Jackson was as realistic as Mike Bloomberg, which is a little unsettling because if you had to guess which one was smarter than the other, yeah, most of you would pick him. But this might make you wonder.
Pistols are different. You have to pull the trigger each time. An assault weapon, you basically hold it, goes blah, blah, blah.
Here I am, pulling the trigger on my assault weapon. Did it go blaa? Fully automatic weapons are extremely difficult to purchase legally.
Right? Of course.
He should know better. But so should she. Let's move on to crazy statistics and fasten your seatbelts. Number 13, Biden ballistics. The absurdity goes all the way to the top. Here is none other than President Biden with a hot take on ballistics.
A 9mm bullet blows the lung out of the body.
Maybe we should call those Biden-listics. You might have watched my earlier tests of 9mm rounds against different kinds of surfaces. So yes, 9mm rounds can penetrate much more deeply than you believe. Good for property owners looking for a lawsuit, bad for you if your bullet damages anything behind the target that is not yours.
How you doing, Trooper?
But I will put this bluntly. You have to be taking crazy pills if you actually believe a 9mm bullet can blow someone's lung out of the body. Maybe a 50 caliber can, or a grenade, at best, or worse, depending on which end you are. With a hollow point, it will create a crushed channel the size of a Sharpie.
Funny. I thought it'd be bigger.
So was Biden taking crazy pills? Or did he really believe it? Maybe he did, because he will appear again later in worse condition. It's time to move on to a more powerful round. Number 12. Do you need glasses? Let's start with a simple question. How big is an actual AR-15 bullet? According to Patricia Eddington from the New York State Legislature,
so you don't shoot deer with a bullet that size. If you do, you could cook it at the same time.
It's about 6 inches long. Definitely not something you shoot a deer with. Probably. It's overkill. Good thing no AR-type rifle actually shoots a bullet that size. Because I have an AR bullet here, I also have the other type of bullet she was talking about. Spot the difference? So, she definitely needs glasses or a white cane.
내가 니게로.
We're not done with Eddington yet, but at least she's in some infamous company, so no one remembers her. There is someone a lot more famous for making questionable statements, but at least they are funnier. Number 11. The 500-pound AR. Quick question. How much does an AR-15 weigh? Answer. About 7 pounds. Pretty light. That's one of the reasons it's been in use for the better part of a century. But if Sheila Jackson Lee was right, well...
I've held an AR-15 in my hand. I wish I had it. It is as heavy as 10 boxes that you might be moving. And the bullet that is utilized, a 50 caliber.
10 moving boxes? That's over 500 pounds. Over 70 times as much weight as the weapon she's talking about. And I don't know about you, but it's pretty hard to confuse a 5.56 or 223 caliber bullet with a 50 caliber. Even if you need glasses, they are easy to tell apart. Again, just look at them. But hey, even a rifle big enough to shoot one of these big boys would not weigh over 500 pounds.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
Maybe she's thinking about artillery. I don't really know. And probably neither does she. At least she's not arguing to make a gun less safe here, unlike one of her colleagues. Number 10. Basic mechanics. Now, you would think that an elected official would know what makes a fully automatic weapon fully automatic. We have heard a lot about bump stocks over the past few years. Basically, they allow the gun to bump the trigger against the shoulder, creating rapid fire. They are controversial because they allow rapid shooting, and we saw them used in Las Vegas on October 2017, where 61 people were killed in the worst mass shooting done by one person in the US. But here is what a bump stock is not. David Cicilline.
Stabilizing brace, which is depicted here, when attached here, it turns this weapon into an automatic weapon. It becomes a bump stock. And so it will allow that to essentially be fired like an automatic weapon. That's the danger.
Held up a nasty-looking sign with the words stabilizing brace, pointing to the back of the weapon. No, they are two completely different things. You or probably smart enough to figure out that a stabilizing brace is something you attach to the rear of the firearm. This helps stabilize it when it's fired, and it's really useful for shooters with disabilities. It also means that having one around is usually safer because the shooter can aim more accurately. Less risk of a stray bullet. So Cecilien was not only wrong, he's actually arguing to make guns less safe. Doesn't get much worse than that. But I suppose stray bullets don't matter if one of his former colleagues was right. Number 9. Human hunting. Have you ever lived in a place where it's legal to hunt humans, like you were the predator? The movie was sort of real to a certain United States senator. You might have heard of her.
And yet it's legal to hunt humans with 15-round, 30-round, even 150-round magazines.
If hunting humans was really legal, then she did not do her job as a legislator very well.
Come on now, that ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
But let's talk about the other part of her statement. Back on Earth, I've never come across a small arm with a 150-round magazine. They do exist, but are very rarely used. The gun would weigh too much, and the weight will force your hand forward uncomfortably and also prevent you to shoot prone, which would be bad for concealment. The barrel would probably get too hot and you're very likely to have feeding issues and jams. I am not sure she thought about this, but her intended audience did not. So she got people scared, and that's what matters to her. Scared people do not think about the reasons why magazines might have a certain number of rounds. That will come in the next item in our countdown. Scared people are easier to get to do what you tell them. In this case, they vote and donate their hard-earned money. And guess what? We are only halfway through the absurdities. It gets really bad from here. Number 8, heat-proof ARs. You know what I hated having to do in the military? Hold back my platoon's fire because the barrels of our machine guns were getting a little hot. And I really hated having to carry replacement barrels around. We were carrying enough heavy gear around already. Guns, ammo, lots of ammo, food, water, shelter, and so on, in temperature varying from 0 to 100 degrees. And if anything, infantry loads have become heavier over time. Maybe I should have listened to a certain politician from California instead.
This is a ghost gun. This right here has ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second. 30 magazine clip in half a second.
Bullshit level, DEFCON 5.
Okay, joke's over. First of all, that rifle does not look like a 30 caliber. It looks like a 5.56. Maybe that sounds like I'm nitpicking, but does this look like nitpicking to you? This is a 30-06 bullet, the one used in World War era rifles like the Springfield and the M1 Garand. This is a 5.56 bullet used in AR-type rifles. Different eras, different weights, very different sizes. I don't know why people who should know better cannot seem to get it right. So at that point, Senator DeLeon was talking nonsense, but didn't know enough to quit while he was ahead. Now, here is when his statement goes from confused to the product of crazy pills.
This right here has ability with a 30 caliber clip to disperse with 30 bullets within half a second.
I do not think he did his math. Definitely not his physics. 30 rounds in half a second means a firing rate of 3,600 rounds a minute. That's only a 500% difference compared to what an actual AR can do on full auto at its best. There is only one type of weapon that can actually shoot that fast. And it's definitely not some ghost gun you can assemble from a CD printer or walk around with, unless maybe you're a Terminator. not a rifle, a multi-barrel chain gun or minigun. They have to have multiple barrels because that is the only way they can shoot that fast without melting, or at least without the gun jamming first. Let's say I went to the range with an actual fully automatic AR-type rifle. I'd be able, in theory, to fire between 700 and 900 rounds a minute, far less than 3,600. And my barrel would start glowing after a few hundred rounds and the accuracy would be gone. This is why military guidelines often require a 3-minute cooldown if you fire 90 rounds back to back in full auto. My gun would have at least a 6% chance of jamming before that though. And if I still try shooting through that, I would hurt myself or the gun. So it is easy for someone like me to laugh at such an absurd statement. But at best, this is fear-mongering. At worst, this politician might encourage people to try something dangerous. Now, let's go back to Joe Biden. He's more fun, I promise. Number 7, presidential wisdom. I feel sort of bad about having to call out Joe Biden when he was president. You know why. But even by those low standards, this one was rough.
It made it harder for people to buy stabilized braces. Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun. It's essentially turned it into a short barrel rifle, which has been a weapon of choice by a number of mass shooters.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I am not sure adding a brace will suddenly change the bullets that a pistol can shoot. But who knows? Maybe this was presidential wisdom from a higher plane of reality. Number 6, hot barrel. You would think that a politician proposing legislation would understand what they are trying to legislate. But we have seen now that's more idealistic than achieving world peace. Quick question. Do you know what a barrel shroud is? Back in 2007, a congresswoman from New York who sponsored a law to ban them said it's the shoulder things that goes up.
But that was the best bill they could get out at that particular time. I actually don't know what a barrel shroud is. I believe it's a shoulder thing that goes up.
No, it's not.
I'll put it bluntly, no gun designer in their right mind would or could design the barrel to lean against the shoulder. The barrel goes in front towards the target, away from the shoulder. But that is what Karen McCarthy was saying. Maybe that is why she used so much word salad to avoid talking about it. Maybe we should call her the politician thing that goes nuts. A barrel shroud is what it sounds like. It goes over the barrel so that you won't burn your hand if you touch it after it's been used. Barrels get hot, remember? Banning barrel shrouds is actually the opposite of gun safety. It makes guns more unsafe. And speaking of unsafe, it's back to a former vice president. Number 5, bad advice. Joe Biden, that is. And it's worse because this time he was not a victim of elder abuse. Here's the then vice president giving some really bad and dangerous advice.
Said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
He says you don't need an AR-15, but he said something here that's a lot more dangerous. Remember that time we tested shotgun rounds against common construction materials and they penetrated a lot more deeply than I thought? That is why you have to know not only what your target is, but what's behind it. Encouraging people to shoot blindly means they are not paying attention, which means stray rounds impact innocent people, or at least damage property. And that means one thing, you're going straight to a court of law. Even if the bullets do no harm, you might still wind up in court anyway. Some jurisdictions have made reckless gun discharges a misdemeanor or felony all on their own. So do you really want to follow his advice on how to keep yourself safe? There is another reason why what he's saying is so dangerous. If there is a threat and you just fired twice with a double-barrel shotgun, which only has 2 rounds, you've not only given away your position, you are now in a place where you might have to reload, as that threat is coming right at you. Tim Walz showed us what this might be like when he struggled to load his gun properly in a non-stressful situation. So, instead of proving why people do not need an AR-15, Joe Biden probably encouraged more people to get one. Which probably helps, because what if you had to trust your safety to a whistle? Number 4, worse advice. Ladies, would you know if you are getting assaulted? One politician in Colorado didn't seem to think so.
That's why we have the whistles, because you just don't know who you're going to be shooting at. And you don't know if you feel like you're going to be raped.
So he said you should carry a whistle around instead.
That was bullshit!
And there's not much more I can add here, except to say that you probably should not take his advice. This was bad, but at least it was not physically impossible. Not so in New York. Before moving on the final list, please consider clicking on the link in the video description or scan that code to get a free resource list of rangers, stores, books, and our newsletter. Number 3. Heat-seeking bullets. We are back to Patricia Eddington. She said something that wasn't just absurd. It might as well have come from a different universe. So I had to put it in 3rd place. Just listen to it.
But some of these bullets, as you saw, have an incendiary device on the tip of it, which is a heat-seeking device.
A heat-seeking device, like a Sidewinder missile. Get it? Marvel physics are a lot more believable than this. A heat-seeking device is something that tracks the infrared radiation of a target. Actually, all matter in the universe emit infrared radiation, but some matter lets off more of it. Things like jet exhaust engines, that sort of thing. That's how heat-seeking projectiles find their targets. A bullet trying to track people by their infrared signature would be a problem in most settings, unless you're in the winter in the middle of nowhere. There's just too much interference otherwise because, people don't get as hot as machinery. And there is a lot of other people around. And a bullet, sort of small to host the necessary tracking equipment. What she is actually talking about is an incendiary bullet, which sets targets on fire when it impacts by releasing an incendiary compound contained within it. But it does not track heat. It cannot see infrared radiation. Hard to top that. But Joe Biden did. Yes, he is back. Again. Number 2, World War gun.
150 million people have been killed since 2007.
150 million people killed by guns between 2007 and 2020. That's about 44% of the American population. 11.5 million people killed every single year. More than the total number of military deaths in World War I. If that kind of carnage were happening, we would all know about it. Can it get worse? Yes. Number 1. Extinction-level event. At least Joe Biden was not the most mathematically wrong, even in his declining years. Here is Terry McAuliffe when he was governor of Virginia.
We lose 93 million Americans a day to gun violence.
I guess the voluntary human extinction movement does not need to exist with all these guns around. But that is one of the other 3 certainties in life. Death. Not as much of it or as fast as McAuliffe was talking about, but death.
No! Maybe he'll be all right.
The other certainty is the taxes we pay to these guys. But what absurd, physics-breaking gun statements from public figures would you nominate for a video like this? Be sure to share some of the humor in the comments.